The bridge of the Crimson Talon buzzed with the usual sounds of a working warship. Crew members moved between stations, checking weapons and scanning for targets. Captain Torvik stood at the center of it all, his massive frame casting shadows. Across the metal floor, scales were dark green with old battle scars running from his neck to his claws. He had been leading the Bloodclaw pirates for over 20 years, and in that time his crew had never failed to take what they wanted. The Bloodclaw pirates were known across 3 star systems as the most dangerous raiders in space. They had destroyed entire space stations and captured thousands of ships. No military force had ever been able to stop them completely. Other pirate groups feared them. Even some planetary governments paid them to stay away rather than risk a fight. Torvik was reviewing the latest intelligence reports when his communication system crackled to life. The face of Captain Neth appeared on the main screen. Neth commanded one of Torvik's scout ships, and he was known for being calm under pressure. But today, something was different. His yellow eyes were wide, and his hands shook slightly as he spoke. "Captain Torvik, we have a problem," Neth said, his voice tight with worry. "My scouts have detected a ship approaching the Meridian Belt. It's a big one, sir. Colony-class vessel." Torvik leaned forward in his command chair. Colony ships were perfect targets. They carried thousands of people, valuable supplies, and usually had weak defenses. "What's the problem, Neth? Sounds like easy money to me." Neth's face went pale. "Sir, it's flying human colors." The bridge fell silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the screen. Torvik felt his blood run cold. Around him, his officers exchanged nervous glances. Even Grix, his tactical officer, who had never shown fear in battle, stepped back from his station. "Are you certain?" Torvik asked slowly. "Positive, sir?" "Check the signals 3 times. It's definitely human. They're broadcasting standard colony ship identification codes." Torvik stood up and walked to the tactical display. Grix activated the holographic projector, and dozens of files appeared in the air around them. Each file showed a different encounter with human ships. Every single file was marked with red warning symbols. "Show me the Battle of Kepler Station," Torvik ordered. The hologram changed to show the wreckage of what had once been a major trading post. Grix's voice was quiet as he explained what had happened. 3 human cargo ships were attacked by the Iron Fang pirates. The humans were outnumbered 10 to 1. Instead of surrendering, they turned their engines into bombs. The explosion destroyed the entire pirate fleet and the station. The Titan Gate incident. Another image appeared. This one showed the twisted remains of dozens of ships floating in space. Keth, invasion fleet attacked a human colony. 3 human destroyers fought against 60 enemy ships. The humans lost all their vessels, but they rammed their ships into the Keth command vessels. The invasion failed because the humans killed all the enemy leaders. Torvik nodded grimly. Every pirate in the galaxy knew these stories. There were hundreds more just like them. Humans never surrendered. They never tried to negotiate. When they were cornered, they found ways to kill everyone around them, including themselves. Sir Neth's voice came through the speaker again. "What are your orders?" Torvik looked around his bridge. These were some of the toughest fighters in the galaxy. It faced down military fleets and won. But every single one of them looked afraid now. He didn't blame them. He was afraid too. "Set course for the Outer Rim immediately," Torvik commanded. "Full speed, sir," his navigation officer asked. "That will take us completely out of the Meridian Belt. We'll lose weeks of hunting time." "Better to lose time than to lose our lives," Torvik replied. "Send a message to all Bloodclaw ships in this sector. Tell them to maintain at least 50 light-years distance from any human vessel, and broadcast a warning to all other pirate groups in the area." Grix began typing the message into his console. "What should I tell them, Captain?" "Tell them the truth. Humans don't fight like other species. They don't care about living through a battle. They only care about making sure their enemies die with them." As the Crimson Talon changed course and began moving away from the approaching human ship, Torvik walked to the observation window. He could see stars streaking past as they accelerated. Somewhere out there, a human colony ship was continuing on its peaceful journey, probably not even aware that one of the most dangerous pirate fleets in the galaxy was running away from them. Captain, his communications officer, called out, "We're getting responses from other ships in the area. The Death's Head pirates are also withdrawing. So are the Void Hunters and the Star Reapers." Torvik wasn't surprised. Every successful pirate group had learned the same lesson. You could fight anyone else in the galaxy and have a chance of winning. You could negotiate with them, trick them, or scare them into giving up. But humans were different. Humans would rather die than give up, and they would make sure to take you with them. Sir Neth's voice came through the speaker one more time. "I'm picking up more human signals. Looks like they have escort ships. How many?" "Just 2, sir. Small destroyers. They don't look like much." Torvik almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Neth, those 2 small destroyers are more dangerous than our entire fleet. Each one of those ships has a crew that will fight until their ship is nothing but scrap metal. If they're about to lose, they'll turn their ship into a weapon and ram it down our throats." "Understood, sir. Maintaining distance." The bridge crew continued their work, but the mood had changed completely. What had started as a routine hunting mission had become a retreat. None of them felt ashamed about it. Every pirate group in the galaxy did the same thing when they encountered humans. Torvik returned to his command chair and activated his personal log, Captain's Log, Day 847. Encountered human colony ship in Meridian Belt, following standard protocol and withdrawing all forces. Estimated human fleet strength, minimal. Estimated threat level, maximum. Note to self: remind new crew members about the first rule of piracy. Never engage humans unless you're ready to die today. He closed the log and settled back in his chair. The Crimson Talon and its escort ships continued their journey toward safer hunting grounds, leaving the humans to travel in peace. It wasn't the first time the Bloodclaw pirates had run from a fight, and it wouldn't be the last. But when it came to humans, running wasn't cowardice, it was common sense. Captain Lisa Brooks stood on the bridge of the New Dawn, watching the stars through the main viewing window. The massive colony ship was 3 kilometers long and carried 50,000 people who were looking for a new home. They had been traveling for 8 months now, heading toward a planet called Kepler 4 for to see. It was a good world with clean air and plenty of water. It's perfect for starting a new human colony. Brooks was a tall woman with short gray hair and calm brown eyes. She had been a military officer for 15 years. Before taking command of the New Dawn, her crew respected her because she never panicked, even when things went wrong. And in deep space, things went wrong pretty often. Her first officer, Commander Pete Walsh, walked up to her with a data pad in his hands. Pete was younger than Brooks, maybe 40 years old, with red hair and a thick beard. He had been her second in command for 3 years now, and she trusted him completely. "Captain, we've got some interesting readings on the long-range scanners," Pete said, handing her the datapad. Brooks looked at the information on the screen. There were several ship signatures moving away from their current course. The computer had identified them as military vessels, but they were moving in the wrong direction. Instead of coming toward the New Dawn to investigate, they were heading away as fast as their engines could carry them. "Pete, are these readings correct?" Brooks asked. "I had Tommy check them twice," Pete replied, pointing toward the young man at the sensor station. "It looks like we've got about 20 ships out there, mixed classes, but they're all moving away from us at maximum speed." Brooks studied the data more carefully. Ship designs were familiar from intelligence briefings. Sharp angles, heavy armor, lots of weapons. These weren't military ships from any government she knew about. "These are pirate vessels," she said quietly. "Yeah, that's what I thought too," Pete agreed. "Bloodclaw markings on most of them. Some others I don't recognize, but they're definitely not friendly." Dr. Amy Chen looked up from her science station nearby. She was the ship's head of xenobiology, which meant she studied alien life forms and cultures. Amy was small and thin, with black hair pulled back in a ponytail. She spent most of her time in the research labs, but she often worked on the bridge. When they encountered other ships, "Did you say pirates are running away from us?" Amy asked with a smile. "Looks that way," Brooks replied. "Any idea why they might do that?" Amy laughed softly. "You know exactly why they're running. It's the same reason pirates avoid human space in general. They think we're all crazy. Pete nodded. She's right. Remember what happened at the Battle of Titan's Gate? 3 human destroyers against an entire Keth invasion fleet. We lost all our ships, but we won the battle. How did we win if we lost all our ships? Asked Tommy from his sensor station. He was new to the crew and hadn't heard all the old war stories yet. Brooks turned to face him. We turned our engines into weapons, Tommy. When it became clear that we couldn't win a normal fight, our captains rammed their ships into the enemy command vessels. The explosions destroyed the entire Keth leadership. Without commanders, their fleet fell apart. The aliens learned something important that day, Amy added. Killing humans isn't the hard part. Hard part is that we'll kill you right back, even after we're already dead. Tommy's eyes went wide. We really did that. We really did, Pete. Confirmed, and it's not the only time either. Check the history files when you have a chance. Humans have a reputation for fighting until the very end. We don't surrender. We don't negotiate when we're cornered. And we don't care if we die as long as we take the enemy with us. Brooks walked over to the tactical display and activated it. A 3-dimensional map of the surrounding space appeared in the air above them. The retreating pirate ships showed up as red dots, moving away from their position in all directions. Look at this pattern, she said. They're not just avoiding us. They're staying at least 50 light years away. That's not normal caution. That's real fear. Can you blame them? Amy asked. From their point of view, every human ship is a potential suicide bomb. We've proven over and over again that we'd rather die fighting than live as prisoners. Pete pulled up another display showing recent pirate activity in the region. According to the intelligence reports we received before we left Earth, pirate attacks in human-controlled space have dropped to almost 0. Not because we're hunting them down, but because they won't operate anywhere near us. It's actually kind of sad, Amy said. Most of these pirate species aren't really evil. They're just following their natural instincts. In their cultures, when you're defeated, you surrender and hope the winner shows mercy. The idea of fighting to the death is completely foreign to them, but it works in our favor, Brooks pointed out. Our reputation keeps us safe. Pirates would rather find easier targets than risk a fight with humans. Tommy was still staring at the tactical display. Captain, there's something I don't understand. If the pirates are so afraid of us, why don't other species ask for our protection? And Pete exchanged a look. It was a good question, and the answer wasn't simple. They're afraid of us too, Tommy, Brooks explained. Think about it from their perspective. We're a species that's willing to commit suicide just to hurt our enemies. That doesn't make us look like good neighbors. It makes us look like dangerous. Crazy people. The galactic community sees us as walking weapons, Amy added. They appreciate that we keep the pirates away, but they also worry that we might turn on them someday. After all, if we're willing to die to defeat our enemies, what does that say about how we treat our friends? The bridge was quiet for a moment. Has everyone thought about that? Brooks looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, pirate ships were racing away from them as fast as they could travel. The New Dawn and its 50,000 colonists were probably the safest ships in this entire sector of space. Not because they had the best weapons or the strongest armor, but because everyone was too afraid to attack them. Captain Pete said, softly, do you ever think about what it means? Our reputation, I mean? What do you mean? We've become the thing that scares the scary things. Pirates who attack military fleets run away from civilian colony ships just because those ships happen to be human. Doesn't that seem strange to you? Brooks considered the question carefully. Pete, I think it means we've learned something that most other species haven't figured out yet. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to make sure the other guy doesn't want to start one in the first place. By making them think we're suicidal? By making them understand that we value some things more than our own lives, she corrected. Freedom. The safety of our families. The right to choose our own path. Those things are worth dying for, and everyone in the galaxy knows it. Amy looked up from her console. Captain, I'm picking up more ship movements. Looks like word is spreading. We've got pirate groups from 3 different sectors moving away from our projected course. How many ships total? Over 100, Captain? And they're not just avoiding us. They're broadcasting warnings to each other. Brooks smiled. Well, I guess that means we'll have a peaceful journey to our new home. The New Dawn continued on. Its way through space, surrounded by an invisible bubble of safety created by nothing more than humanity's reputation. The 50,000 colonists sleeping in the ship's residential sections had no idea that their journey was being protected by the fear they inspired in the galaxy's most dangerous criminals. As Brooks prepared to end her shift and get some rest, she reflected on the strange nature of human psychology. They weren't actually suicidal. They didn't want to die. But they had long ago decided that there were things worse than death, and they were willing to fight for those things, no matter what the cost. That simple fact had made them the most feared species in known space, and probably the safest as well. The Emergency Security Council chamber on Synthesis Prime was buzzing with nervous energy. Representatives from 12 of the galaxy's major species had gathered for an urgent meeting. The room itself was impressive, with a curved ceiling that showed a real-time view of space above the planet. Holographic projectors allowed delegates from distant worlds to attend the meeting without traveling across the galaxy. Ambassador, Quinn of the Depth Lords, floated in her specialized water tank at the center of the room. Her blue-green tentacles moved constantly as she spoke, which was a sign of stress among her people. The Depth Lords were known for being calm and logical, but today Quinn seemed anything but relaxed. "Fellow delegates," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the water and into the room's speakers, "we face a situation that requires immediate attention. Human expansion in the outer sectors has created an unexpected problem, Ambassador." Krex of the Hive Collective clicked his mandibles together nervously. The insect-like alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and compound eyes that could see in multiple directions at once. His species was known for their military precision and strategic thinking. "What kind of problem?" Krex asked. "Humans have been expanding for decades. This is not new information." Quinn activated the main display screen. A map of the galaxy appeared, showing the locations of various species and their territories. Human space was marked in blue, and it had grown significantly in recent years. "The problem is not the expansion itself," Quinn explained. "The problem is what happens wherever humans establish a presence. Look at these crime statistics." The display changed to show piracy rates in different sectors of space. In areas without human colonies, piracy was a constant threat. Trade ships needed military escorts, and entire sectors were considered dangerous for civilian travel. But in areas near human space, the piracy rates dropped to almost zero. "Now, this cannot be accurate," said Ambassador Whisper of the Patrol. Cat-like alien was known for her sharp intelligence and military background. "No single species has ever been able to eliminate piracy from such a large area." "The data is correct," Quinn replied. "We have confirmed these numbers with multiple sources. In sectors with human colonies, piracy has dropped by 97%. In sectors adjacent to human space, it has dropped by 85%. Prism, the representative of the crystalline unity, vibrated with harmonic frequencies that translated as confusion. The geometric being was made of living crystal and communicated through sound waves. "How do humans accomplish this?" Prism asked. "Their military forces are not significantly larger than other species. Their weapons technology is not superior to ours." Krex leaned forward in his chair. "We have intelligence reports from our contacts in the criminal underground. The pirate organizations are not being defeated by human forces. They are choosing to avoid human territory entirely." "Why would they do that?" Whisper asked. "Ambassador." Torv of the Stone Clans, a massive rock-like being, spoke in his slow, deep voice. "Because they have learned that humans are not rational opponents. They do not follow the normal rules of conflict." Quinn nodded and changed the display again. This time it showed a list of recorded battles between humans and various hostile forces. Each entry contained detailed information about the outcome. "Look at these engagement records," she said. "In 47% of conflicts, humans were outnumbered by more than 10 to 1. In 32%, they were outgunned by similar margins. Yet in 91% of these battles, the human forces achieved their objectives." "How is that possible?" Prism asked. "Because human forces do not define victory the same way other species do," Torv explained. "For most of us, victory means surviving the battle and accomplishing our goals. For humans, victory means accomplishing their goals regardless of whether they survive. Whisper's tail twitched with anxiety. You're saying they win by dying? I'm saying they win by being willing to die, Torv corrected. The difference is significant. When facing an enemy that will fight to the death, most rational opponents choose to find a different target. Quen activated another display showing intelligence reports from various criminal organizations. The reports were written in different languages, but the translation software made them easy to understand. These are internal communications from pirate groups across the galaxy, she explained. Notice the common theme. The reports all contain similar warnings about human vessels. Avoid at all costs. Do not engage. High probability of mutual destruction. Crew will not surrender under any circumstances. Ambassador Rex of the Trader Federation, a tall, thin humanoid with purple skin, raised his hand to speak. I don't understand the problem. If human presence reduces piracy, isn't that a good thing? Trade becomes safer, travel becomes easier. The problem, Krex replied, is that we don't control this effect. Humans are not deliberately protecting our trade routes. They are simply existing, and their reputation is scaring away criminals. What happens if they decide to use this reputation against us? The room fell silent. It was a question that had been bothering many of the delegates, but no one had wanted to say it out loud. You're suggesting that humans might become a threat to the rest of us? Whisper asked. I'm suggesting that they already are a threat, Krex replied. Any species that can eliminate piracy simply by existing nearby has power that we don't fully understand. Power without accountability is dangerous. Prism vibrated with what sounded like disagreement. Analysis of human behavior suggests they are not naturally aggressive toward other civilized species. Their reputation for mutual destruction tactics appears to be limited to defensive situations. For now, Quen said quietly. But what if that changes? What if humans decide that they want our territory or our resources? How do you negotiate with a species that would rather die than compromise? Ambassador Dale of the Peaceful Worlds, a small green-skinned being with large eyes, spoke up for the first time. Have we considered simply asking the humans about their intentions? Direct communication might be more effective than speculation. We have tried, Quen replied. Human. Diplomatic responses are always polite but vague. They say they want to be good neighbors, but they also make it clear that they will not be pushed around by anyone. Torv nodded slowly, which brings us back to the original problem. How do we deal with a species that has accidentally become the galaxy's most effective crime deterrent, but might also be its most dangerous potential enemy? The crime statistics are undeniable, Rex pointed out. Trade profits in human-adjacent sectors have increased by 40%. Insurance costs for merchant vessels have dropped by 60%. From an economic standpoint, human expansion has been beneficial for everyone. But from a security standpoint, Krex countered, we have a species that can control pirate activity through fear alone. That suggests a level of implied threat that makes me very uncomfortable. Whisper leaned back in her chair. I've been reviewing the battle reports more carefully. Humans don't actually prefer to die in combat. They prefer to win. But they're willing to accept mutual destruction if that's the only way to avoid defeat. That's different from being suicidal, is it? Quen asked. From a tactical standpoint, what's the difference between an enemy who wants to die and an enemy who's willing to die? The difference, Prism said, is predictability. Humans can be reasoned with as long as you don't try to dominate them. Only become dangerous when they feel threatened or cornered. So our policy should be to never threaten or corner them, Dale asked. That might be wise, Torv agreed. But it also means accepting that humans have become a species that cannot be controlled through normal diplomatic or military pressure. In effect, they have achieved independence through reputation alone. The meeting continued for several more hours, but the delegates kept coming back to the same basic problem. Humans had somehow created a situation where they were simultaneously the safest and most dangerous species in the galaxy. Their willingness to fight to the death had made them so feared that criminal organizations wouldn't operate anywhere near them, which created safe zones that benefited everyone. But that same reputation also meant that no one could force humans to do anything they didn't want to do. As the meeting finally ended, Quen looked around at her fellow delegates. "We will continue to monitor the situation," she announced. "For now, I believe our best policy is to maintain peaceful relations with humanity while being prepared for any changes in their behavior." The delegates began to disconnect their holographic links and leave the chamber. But many of them were thinking the same thing. They had just spent hours discussing a species that had become too dangerous to fight and too valuable to antagonize. In the complex politics of galactic civilization, humans had found a unique position. They were the species that everyone was afraid of, but also the species that everyone secretly wanted on their side. The Void Reapers had ruled through fear for over 3,000 years. They were ancient beings of pure energy who could take physical form when they chose to. Their ships were massive black vessels that looked like floating nightmares, covered in spikes and weapon ports. For millennia, they had been the thing that other dangerous species feared most. War Prime Nelvoid floated in the command chamber of his flagship, the Apocalypse Engine. He was 12 feet tall when he took solid form, with glowing red eyes and energy crackling around his dark body. Unlike the younger species in the galaxy, Nelvoid remembered when space travel was new, and most planets had never seen aliens. He had watched civilizations rise and fall, and he had destroyed many of them personally. His lieutenant Darkbane materialized beside him. Darkbane was smaller and less powerful, but he had served Nullvoid for 8 centuries and was trusted with important missions. "War Prime," Darkbane said, his voice like static electricity, "the reports from across the galaxy are troubling. Criminal organizations everywhere are avoiding human space. Even the Bloodclaw pirates have withdrawn from profitable hunting grounds." Nullvoid turned his glowing eyes toward the tactical display. It showed a map of known space with human territories, marked in blue. Around those blue areas, there were large empty zones where no pirate activity had been reported in months. "You believe these flesh creatures have somehow become more dangerous than us?" Nullvoid asked. "The evidence suggests they have developed a reputation that rivals our own," Darkbane replied carefully. "Perhaps we should consider avoiding them as well." Nullvoid's energy field flared with anger. "Impossible. We are the Void Reapers. We have destroyed entire star systems. We've made whole species extinct. A few small flesh creatures cannot be more terrifying than us." "But War Prime, the reports say that humans will fight until they die. They turn their own ships into weapons. When they face defeat, then they are fools," Nullvoid declared. "Dead enemies cannot continue fighting. If they wish to destroy themselves, we will help them do it, and then take whatever we want from the wreckage." Darkbane hesitated. Learned over the centuries that Nullvoid did not like to be contradicted, but he also knew that underestimating enemies was dangerous. "War Prime, perhaps we should observe them first. Learn their tactics before we engage." "No," Nullvoid said firmly. "We will prove that their reputation is built on lies and fear. Choose a target, something small and isolated." The Darkbane activated his scanner and began searching for human vessels in nearby space. After a few minutes, he found what he was looking for. "War Prime, there is a small human research ship 3 light-years from here. It appears to be studying stellar phenomena. The vessel is called the Pioneer's Spirit, and it carries only 30 crew members." "Perfect," Nullvoid said. "We will capture this ship and its crew. When word spreads that the Void Reapers have defeated humans in battle, the galaxy will remember who they should really fear." The Apocalypse Engine changed course and began moving toward the human research vessel. The ship was enormous compared to its target. Over 2 kilometers long and armed with weapons that could destroy planets. Against a small research ship with 30 people, it should have been no contest at all. The Pioneer's Spirit was conducting routine scans of a nearby star when the Void Reaper ship appeared. Captain Roy Banks was in his laboratory, reviewing data from the morning's observations. When his communications officer called him to the bridge, Banks was a quiet man in his 50s who had spent most of his career studying space phenomena rather than fighting battles. He had gray hair and wore simple civilian clothes instead of a military uniform. His crew was made up of scientists and researchers, not soldiers. They had basic defensive systems, but nothing that could fight against a major warship. Captain. His communications officer, Maria Santos, called out as he entered the bridge. "We've got a big problem. There's a massive ship approaching us, and it's not responding to our hails." Banks looked at the main screen and felt his blood run cold. The ship approaching them was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was huge and black, with a design that seemed intended to frighten anyone who saw it. "Can you identify it?" he asked. "Computer says it's a Void Reaper vessel, sir," replied his tactical officer, Tom Gray. "Class designation, Planet Killer." The bridge fell silent. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories about the Void Reapers, but very few people had ever seen one of their ships and lived to tell about it. They were legends, nightmare stories that parents told their children to make. "Them behave," Captain Maria said. "They're hailing us now. Put them through." The main screen changed to show the terrifying form of War Prime Nullvoid. His red eyes seemed to burn right through the screen, and energy crackled around his dark body. "Human vessel," Nullvoid said, his voice filled with power and menace. "You will surrender immediately. Prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your ship and the death of your crew." Banks looked around his bridge. His crew was scared, and he didn't blame them. They were researchers, not fighters. They had families back on Earth who were waiting for them to come home. The smart thing to do would be to surrender and hope for the best. But Banks also knew what happened to people who were captured by the Void Reapers. Stories were horrible: torture, slavery, or worse. These were creatures who had destroyed entire civilizations for entertainment. "This is Captain Banks of the Pioneer's Spirit," he replied calmly. "We're a research vessel on a peaceful scientific mission. We're not armed for combat." "Your weapons are irrelevant," Nullvoid responded. "Surrender now, or we will take your ship by force." Banks made his decision. He turned to his tactical officer. "Tom, begin emergency reactor procedures. Set the antimatter containment units to overload sequence." Tom's face went pale. "Captain, that will destroy the ship. It will destroy both ships." "I know," Banks said quietly. Then he turned back to the screen where Nullvoid was waiting for his response. "This is Captain Banks," he said, his voice steady and calm. "We're not surrendering. Fair warning, we're carrying experimental antimatter containment units for our stellar research. If you try to board us, I'm overloading the entire array." Nullvoid stared at him through the screen. "You would destroy yourselves?" "That's correct," Banks replied without hesitation. "The question is, are you willing to die today? Because we absolutely are." For the first time in over 1,000 years, Nullvoid felt something he had almost forgotten: uncertainty. His scanners were confirming what the human had said. The research ship's reactor was already beginning to cycle toward overload. The antimatter containment units were real, and they were powerful enough to vaporize both ships. "You are bluffing," Nullvoid said, but there was less confidence in his voice now. "Check your sensors," Banks replied. "We'll be ready to detonate in about 3 minutes. If you want to live through this, I suggest you back off." Darkbane materialized next to Nullvoid and whispered urgently. "Warprime, the sensors confirm. They are not bluffing. The explosion will destroy us both." Nullvoid stared at the human captain on the screen. The man showed no signs of fear or doubt. He was completely serious about destroying both ships, rather than surrendering. "This is impossible," Nullvoid muttered. "No rational creature would choose mutual destruction over capture." "Then I guess we're not rational," Banks said with a slight smile. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, by the way. For the first time in 3,000 years, Warprime Nullvoid gave the order to retreat. The Apocalypse engine turned away from the Pioneer's Spirit and jumped to faster-than-light speed. Leaving the small research ship alone in space, Banks waited until the Void Reaper ship was completely gone before ordering his crew to shut down the overload sequence. As the reactor returned to normal operations, he sat down in his captain's chair and took a deep breath. "Captain," Tom asked quietly, "were we really going to do it?" Banks looked at him seriously. "Tom, there are worse things than dying. Being slaves to creatures like that is one of them." The story of the encounter spread quickly through the galaxy's communication networks. The Void Reapers, the most feared force in known space, had retreated from a single small research ship. Human reputation grew even darker, and even the ancient terrors of the galaxy began to give humanity a wide berth. 6 months after the incident with the Void Reapers, the Galactic Council chamber on Synthesis Prime was busier than it had been in years. Representatives from over 50 species had come to attend a special session. The reason for the gathering was unusual. For the first time in galactic history, humanity had been invited to send an ambassador to address the full council. Ambassador Lisa Brooks stood at the entrance to the Great Chamber, looking at the massive room where the most important decisions in the galaxy were made. She was the same Lisa Brooks who had commanded the colony ship New Dawn, but now she wore the formal diplomatic uniform of Earth's embassy. The transition from ship captain to ambassador had been difficult, but she understood why she had been chosen. She had experience dealing with alien species, and more importantly, she understood how other species saw humanity. The chamber itself was impressive. It was built in a circle, with seats arranged in tiers that rose up toward a domed ceiling. The ceiling showed a real-time view of space, with stars and nebulae slowly moving across the curved surface. Each species had their own section, designed to accommodate their specific environmental needs. Some delegates sat in chairs, others floated in tanks of liquid, and a few existed as energy beings contained in special field generators. As Brooks walked toward the center of the chamber, she noticed how many seats were empty. Many species had chosen not to attend the session, despite the historic nature of the event. She wasn't surprised. Most aliens were still afraid to be in the same room with humans, even for diplomatic meetings. Ambassador Quen of the Depth Lords floated in her water tank near the center of the chamber. Her tentacles moved in slow, careful patterns as she spoke. "Honored delegates," Quen began. "We are here today to address a situation that affects the security and prosperity of our entire galactic community. For the first time, we have invited a human representative to speak directly to this council." A nervous murmur ran through the chamber. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Before we begin," Quen continued, "I want to remind everyone that this is a peaceful diplomatic session."
All weapons scanners have confirmed that no one in this chamber is armed.
Brooks almost smiled at that comment. The aliens still didn't understand that humans didn't need weapons to be dangerous. Her own reputation was weapon enough. "Ambassador Brooks of Earth," Quen said, "you have been granted permission to address this council. Please proceed." Brooks walked to the center of the chamber and activated the holographic projector. Her image appeared on screens throughout the room, allowing every delegate to see her clearly. "Honored delegates," she began, "I know our reputation precedes us. You call us suicide soldiers, walking weapons, creatures who choose death over defeat. You're not wrong." The murmur in the chamber grew louder. Several delegates exchanged nervous glances. "But I'm here today to help you understand." "Why?" Brooks continued. "Humans learned something early in our development that many species never discover. There are things worse than death." She activated the projector and showed images from Earth's history. Now, pictures of wars, slavery, oppression, and suffering. "We learned that living as slaves is worse than dying free. We learned that watching our children grow up in cages is worse than fighting to protect them, even if that fight kills us. We decided long ago that we would rather die on our feet than live on our knees." Ambassador Krex of the Hive Collective clicked his mandibles nervously. "Ambassador Brooks, your species' willingness to embrace mutual destruction has eliminated piracy in 17 sectors. Criminal organizations abandon entire regions rather than risk encountering humans. How do you explain this effect?" Nodded. "It's simple, Ambassador Krex. Criminals are bullies, and bullies only pick on victims who won't fight back. The moment you choose a target who's willing to burn everything down rather than submit, the entire game changes." She changed the display to show crime statistics from across the galaxy. The numbers clearly showed the dramatic drop in piracy wherever humans had established a presence. "Look at these numbers," she continued. "Not because we're hunting pirates, Not because we're stronger or better armed than other species, simply because word has spread that humans won't surrender. Pirates have learned that attacking us means everyone dies, including them, so they choose easier targets. Ambassador Whisper of the patrol leaned forward in her seat. But Ambassador, doesn't this make you dangerous to the rest of us as well? If you're willing to die rather than negotiate, how can we have normal diplomatic relations? That's an excellent question, Brooks replied. And the answer is that we're only dangerous if you try to dominate us. We can be reasoned with, negotiated with, and worked with, as long as you treat us as equals. You only become suicidal when someone tries to make us slaves. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. We don't want to be the galaxy's monsters, she said. We want to be good neighbors, trading partners, and allies. We want our children to grow up in a peaceful universe where different species can work together. But we will never, ever accept being conquered or controlled by anyone. Prism of the crystalline unity vibrated with harmonic frequencies that translated as curiosity. Ambassador Brooks, analysis indicates that human presence creates zones of reduced criminal activity. These zones benefit all species, not just humans. Is this intentional? No, it's not intentional, Brooks admitted. It's just a side effect of our reputation, but I'm glad it helps everyone. One of the things we've learned is that when good people are safe, everyone benefits. Ambassador Dale of the Peaceful Worlds spoke up. Ambassador, what assurances can you give us that humanity will not use this reputation against peaceful species? Brooks considered the question carefully. Ambassador Dale, I can't make promises for all of humanity forever, but I can tell you our philosophy. We fight those who try to hurt us, and we protect those who can't protect themselves. We've never attacked a peaceful species, and we don't plan to start now. But what if that changes? Asked Ambassador Rex of the Trader Federation. What if future human leaders decide they want our territory or resources? Then you'll have the same problem everyone else in the galaxy has, Brooks replied honestly. You'll have to decide whether it's worth fighting us for whatever we want. But based on our history, I think you'll find that we're more interested in building things than destroying them. She changed the display one more time, showing images of human colonies, space stations, and peaceful settlements.
Alex.
We build when we're not fighting, she said. Schools, hospitals, farms, research stations. We're not a species of warriors. We're a species of survivors who learned to fight because we had to. The chamber was quiet for a long moment.
Really?
Ambassador Quen spoke. Ambassador Brooks, this council has been debating how to deal with the human presence in our galaxy. Your species has become both a source of stability and a source of concern. How do you suggest we move forward? Brooks smiled. The same way. Any reasonable people move forward, Ambassador Quen? We talk to each other. We make agreements that benefit everyone. We work together on common problems. And we respect each other's right to exist. And if someone violates those agreements, then they'll learn why the pirates decided to find other hunting grounds, Brooks replied calmly. The session continued for several more hours, with delegates asking questions about human intentions, capabilities, and long-term plans. Brooks answered each question honestly, never threatening anyone, but also never backing down from humanity's basic principles. As the session finally ended, Ambassador Quen made an announcement that surprised everyone in the chamber. This council formally recognizes human space as a neutral protection zone, she declared. Any species or organization that attacks human vessels or colonies will be considered a threat to galactic security. It was an unprecedented decision. Never before had the Council granted such status to a single species. But the logic was clear. If human space was officially neutral territory, it would create a safe zone that benefited everyone. As Brooks left the chamber, she reflected on what had just happened. Humanity had officially become the galaxy's unofficial protectors, not through military conquest or political manipulation, but simply by being too dangerous to attack and too valuable to antagonize. The irony wasn't lost on her. By being willing to die for their principles, humans had created a situation where they were probably safer than any other species in the galaxy. Their reputation as suicide fighters had made them the least likely targets for aggression. As she walked back to her shuttle, Brooks thought about the colony ship New Dawn, which had reached its destination and was now establishing humanity's newest settlement. The 50,000 colonists were probably building their new homes under the protection of the most effective security system ever created. The simple knowledge that anyone who attacked them would regret it. Even galactic killers steered clear. Because humans were suicide targets. And in a universe full of predators, sometimes the best defense was being too dangerous to touch. Humanity had learned that lesson well, and now the entire galaxy was learning it too.